Hi. Today I'm going to talk about the opioid crisis. How the hell did we ever get here? You know, I've been in the business of addiction treatment for over 40 years, and, you know, before that I've come from a family of people somewhat dependent, well, very dependent on alcohol and marijuana and other chemicals, psychedelics and the like. But anyway, so I want to talk a little bit about the history of our addiction programs and our addiction understanding. I started to work in detox centers in 1984, and it was fascinating. I found myself amongst people, clients and staff, kindred spirits. They were learning about addictions, and they knew about addictions personally, you know. A lot of people who worked in the field were just recovering alcoholics or addicts, or even continuing to use. Not unusual. But anyway, so in those days it was, again, just marijuana. It was quite a bit of alcohol. It was a little bit of heroin, and some of the odd other little things. A lot of psychedelics. That was the 60s and 70s. Woodstock and all that. But anyway, in those days, we used to take people off opiates which was only 4 or 5 days. You'd be pretty much over your withdrawal, and you'd be stabilized and ready to go home. But it was a little bit uncomfortable. You know, it was a rough flu-like symptoms. And we would use a methadone taper, and that was highly successful. And so, over about a 10-day period, and you know, every opiate user knew how to use a methadone taper when they wanted to get free and, you know, take some time off, get clean. But after a while, that methadone taper became methadone maintenance, because if you were on methadone for any length of time, several months to 6 months, you're dependent, you're addicted, you cannot get off that. You have to be almost superhuman to come off a methadone maintenance program. So people seldom succeeded. You know, I spent countless nights trying to get people to stay in detox and complete their program, but as soon as I turned my back, off they were, and they were out of there. And then, of course, that maintenance program, well, we talk about OxyContin, and what was that about? That was an orchestrated business model to have a repeat clientele coming back again and again, and dependent on Oxy. But the other medications are not that different. It's just a rose by any other name. And it's still a rose, and it's still an opiate, and it still has a lot of side effects. So I started to learn, well, first I was introduced to acupuncture, and back in 1989, August of 89, I remember it clearly. I learned the NADA protocol, the National Acupuncture Detox Protocol. And it was great. And it was highly effective and very popular. We started the NADA programs around the city here. And it wasn't easy to get implemented, but eventually it was accepted, embraced. Even now, we still have them. But now with the degree, the extent of the opioid crisis and all the different types of synthetic opiates, it's not enough. And so what I'm suggesting that, you know, back in 1989, I learned a technique where they used electrodes, and it was called Korean hand therapy. Just putting Korean acupuncture electrodes on acupuncture points, and why, I could treat tooth pain, I could treat headaches and back problems. I thought that was amazing. And so I started expanding that to Tong style acupuncture protocols. Again, more amazing. I could use all the different protocols of Tong style acupuncture. Phenomenal. And it was so easy. I didn't have to use needles, just copper and silver. And then I went a step further, and I started putting them on what we call the Jing-Well points, the end points of the energy pathways, Chinese medicine meridians. Bingo. No Well, we had withdrawal, but it was a painless withdrawal. You could take any drug, any of the opiates, and simply place them on the ends of all the 12 meridians, regular meridians, and bingo, the hand, one hand and one foot on the opposite side, or 2 hands and 2 feet if you want to get, comprehensive about it. And a person who was in acute withdrawal, go to my website. I have a number of videos about that. Me demonstrating, treating people with acute withdrawal problems, suddenly becoming more relaxed, more comfortable, no craving, no anxieties, sleeping through the night, no cramping, it was like they didn't have any withdrawal at all. But they do have withdrawal, but it's a painless withdrawal, and it takes a period of time for them to complete the withdrawal detox process. But during that acute detox process, very few, if any, symptoms. Even the post-acute withdrawal, you can glide through that. I mean, whenever you're having rough times, you put the electrodes on. Anybody can do it. You can do it. Now, that was then, and this is now. And the opioid crisis continues to evolve. It's evolving exponentially. It's everywhere. Virtually every city, every town, every village, every part of the country. You've got people who are dependent on various types of opiates. Could be Sublocade, where they inject 1 month's supply into your abdomen, into the subcutaneously. And a lot of people are happy with that. A lot of people are happy with methadone. A lot of people are okay with, just fentanyl patches and so on. But they're all pharmaceutical, I think, business models. The medical model right now for opioid addiction is called the brain disease model. And they believe that you're so broken that you can't be fixed and you have to be maintained. That is the belief system. But I don't believe that. And I've been in this business long enough. I've developed many, many different integrative medicine therapies that help you get through. But bio-electrode therapy is the most effective. Electrodes, you can do it. You can buy the electrodes or you can make them. I show you how to make them if you want. And apply them. You can tie these electrodes. I used to start with wire, using wire cutters, hammering them out, the electrodes, and going to the dollar store and getting sheets of aluminum and using a hole punch. And, that was great fun. Kind of a meditation. But I've refined it. Now I have a complete bioelectrode therapy kit. You got the perfect electrodes, copper, pure silver, pure copper, and there's no side effects from these things. And when you put a silver here and a copper down there, you got a current, an electrical current, which is a form of chi. The electrical field and chi are very much the same thing. So when you do all the 12 meridians, you're doing the entire body, every cell, every tissue, every organ, stimulated by the electrical field, treating your own endogenous electrical field. And again, the pain goes away, but it takes a little bit of time for the diseased, injured tissues to heal themselves, so you have to keep them on. But that's not really that difficult to do either. They stay on the feet really well. They stay on the hands really well. The fingertips, you have to maybe do it every day or every second or third day. Not too much to ask, a little bit of maintenance. There's true maintenance to get truly healthy and independent, no longer a slave to Big Pharma. I believe that anybody can do it. You can do it yourself. You can treat your kids. You can treat your friends, your family. Mothers can treat their addicted children. So we're creating this Barefoot Doctor Army. The Barefoot Doctor program was developed in the 60s, 70s, and 80s during the Cultural Revolution because they didn't have hospitals, they didn't have enough physicians, so they created minimally trained villagers and rice paddy farmers. That's why they call them Barefoot Doctors. Sent them out into the country where they came from, and they did amazing things. It was recognized by the World Health Organization as being one of the most incredible, powerful grassroots organization to provide health care to the masses. Now I'm taking that same model and I'm enlisting Barefoot Doctors right now, that we can train them with 4 to 6 hours of training to show you how to properly and correctly place these electrodes to go out there and treat people, family and friends and strangers. And we can address this opioid crisis. This can be an optional thing for our medical model, combining the medical model of bioelectricity with Chinese medicine, coming up, well, using only electrodes. Cheap, easy, safe, and effective, highly effective. And we can address this opioid crisis. You know, like I say, hundreds of thousands of people dying of overdose and suicide every year. And, you know, to me, that's not acceptable. I don't think it should be acceptable for anybody anywhere. And I think with this Barefoot Doctor program, we can address this crisis, this epidemic, and, you know, get the training, 4 to 6 hours, and you too can become a Barefoot Doctor. But anyway, that's my message, and I would like you to be curious, but I would like you to try this. Just try it on one person. Go to my websites. See me treating lots of different people. See how effective it is. And this should be an optional program, treatment option for anybody and everybody who has an addiction or even complex pain problems. But anyway, so that's my message, and enough is enough. Thank you very much for taking the time.